Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. Right? We're always
back,
happy to
y'all.
see you.
Yeah.
Whatever day it is that you're watching this, you can say that's the day we dropped this video, okay? Because the only day that counts is right now, which is present for you at the time.
Exactly, the day you're watching on it. And we definitely appreciate y'all continued support, okay? For the new viewers out there, we see y'all, you leaving comments, and we definitely appreciate it, okay?
Yes, thank you for your support. So this week, guys, okay, we wanted to talk a little bit about things that are, within our control versus things that are outside of our control.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of us struggle with trying to decipher between the two.
Yeah, and just the act of thinking letting it go, or and as we talked about this in plenty of our videos, when you're holding these emotions in, it causes dis-ease to your body. So we definitely want to know what to let go, what's in our control and what's not in our control, so we can have that easier
make the applicable changes that we need to make.
Yeah.
If it's something we can control, obviously now we're just going to take a few steps back and see where we could have made a few different choices.
Yeah.
Versus things that were just meant to go the way they were, and you're just meant to accept it for what it is.
Exactly. So we're gonna drop some examples of what's outside of your control, while we give some examples of things that are within your control, so you know how to better navigate your life.
Yes. All right. So
some things that are, we would say, within our control, right? Is our values.
Yeah.
Now, when we talk about values, it's kind of like they're guiding principles, right? To know what you find desirable or what you don't find desirable within yourself or within others. I like a person who takes accountability, someone who is generous, people who are kind,
yes,
dependable. Those are certain type of values, for example, right? That I within myself can control. I show up because I am a dependable person.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, so we have to decide, because there are things that are outside of our control. That's the unpredictability, the unpredictability of life. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
We have to understand that, while we set our values, there's still going to be things that are unpredictable that may not fall within our values. And, it's us to really just accept it. If something's unpredictable, there's no way you could have seen it coming. So blaming yourself for certain things like that, or even judging someone else, is, not the right way to go. I see that only causing more conflict than peace, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, what are some questions? Well, one question really that we can ask when it comes to the unpredictability of life, and where we may fall short in, setting our values, that, to help us decide whether we can control this variable or if this is something that's for the wild cards.
Ooh, yeah. And one good question would be, what life outcomes are directly linked to flaws in my values versus those influenced by external forces?
Yes. And that will help you guys decide, all right, is this something that's in my control? Is this something that's outside of my control? What can we do next?
Exactly. Like I said, I'm a dependable person, right? I like to show up on time. So say I'm driving to an event and there's now a reroute in the highway because someone got in an accident or something is happening, right? Unpredicted.
Yes.
Circumstances happened. Now I show up late. Well, you gotta give yourself grace for that. You don't know what is happening on the highway 24/7. Life happens, right? So I can figure out, what's in my control. Well, how I'm feeling about showing up late this one time versus things that's outside of my control. Well, I can't move this big truck to get out of my way.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good example.
Yeah, so the next one, right, with things within our control that can help us navigate life better would be how I respond to my thoughts and my feelings. And we made videos about this before too. I could definitely link up how do you feel your feelings up above. And because how we respond to our feelings, right? How we show up for them is gonna make a huge difference in terms of how it affects us. You know, like if I know, say I'm angry about something, I definitely don't want to shame myself because I'm angry. Anger is a natural emotion to feel.
Yeah.
So I can get down to the bottom of it, like, oh, why do I feel angry? Okay, like how, you know, what are healthy ways for me to, you know, express this anger without harming myself or others? You know, things like that.
Yes, and some things that revolves around like thoughts and feelings that are outside of our control refers to times when especially for some of us who are empaths, and I know all of us are really, you just have to be in tune, right? Just being in someone's space, you can feel something that they're feeling that's not necessarily your feelings, you know, or I know that I believe that we're all connected in the one mind. So there's always thoughts floating, right? Thoughts that may not be yours that happen to float into your mind. You have to understand that when it comes to those kinds of thoughts and feelings, they're outside of our control.
Yes.
Okay. And why that's important, knowing which feelings and thoughts that are in our control, out of control, is because the ones that are outside of our control, we can't react to it, you know, in a certain way where it's just like, now we're losing control of ourselves, you know?
Yeah. And that's, you know, that's definitely huge.
So, I mean, a question that you can ask yourself to help you understand, you know, if these thoughts and feelings are in or outside of your control would be like, what part of what I'm feeling is self-inflicted versus what part is a consequence of external forces? Okay? Because if it's something that, you know, you did to yourself, because most of the things that we feel are things that we do to ourselves, believe it or not. Those are the things that are inside of our control. Where you'd be like, well, you know, yes, there's always, you know, that time to give yourself grace, but it's also that time too to kind of like help yourself decide, all right, what have we learned here?
Exactly. Take accountability.
Yes. Okay, what did I do that led us here? You know, but if it's just like you're angry and you did nothing, you just woke up, but your neighbor over there, angry, you know, and now you're feeling angry. Well, that's not your anger to express. So let it go.
Exactly.
That's not your problem.
Blow by. Yeah. And I love that. So within our control, right? Your expectations. That's definitely within your control. And this is where it gets very tricky, right? Especially if you are dating, if you have friends and family. We just love to put our own self-expectations on them. And when they don't behave as such or they don't meet that expectation, it's woo is life, woo me, right? But the only thing we can control is our expectations. So how do I show up for myself? What do I expect of me? You know, I live a healthy lifestyle. So I expect myself to work out and make sure I keep my body healthy.
Absolutely.
You know, like I am, I believe in you are what you eat or you are what you think. So I limit certain screen times or whatever the case is. So I don't watch certain garbage because of that expectation for myself.
Yes.
Those are things I can control.
Absolutely. And I love that earlier you said we love to set expectations on other people because that's when people get confused when it comes to setting expectations.
Yeah.
It should only involve you as far as what you expect of yourself, you know, because when it becomes outside of your control is when we think that we can choose what other people say or do. But we don't choose that, do we? That's very much unpredictable. While some of us are good at reading others and can predict behaviors, you know, that's a whole different subject. Like generally speaking, you cannot control or set expectation or set limits, boundaries, anything on what someone else can do. That's now you're stepping into controlling issues, which is a totally different problem.
Yeah.
Or you're narcissistic or what?
Okay, we are not here to control one another.
Yeah.
Right? So a great question for that would be, what part of my expectations attempts to control what others do and say versus what I can do and say? Some of y'all need to write that question down.
Seriously,
and answer it.
Pull out your pen and paper because then you can really start like dissecting yourself and see what you have a problem with and why you throw, frequent tantrums, for example, when things don't go your way.
Yeah. Oof. Tough one. So what's in our control is, what within my control is how I show up and care for myself. And we also, I felt like, dropped a video where we talked about women and so how we always put ourselves last, right? And self-care is the best care. Well, that is, so I can link up that video too, but what we can definitely control is how I show up, and that to me means you have big dreams and you have goals. Well, how are you showing up for those big dreams and goals? Or are you bringing those dreams down to a practical baby steps so you can take actions on them? Or because if you're not, then you're not showing up for yourself, and how are you caring for yourself, right? Which honestly is a video we did when we talked about 7 types of rest.
Oh yeah, good one.
Right? So we'll link that up too. And that gives you practical ways in terms of, so you know what type of rest you need, because that's something that's within our control. If you need physical rest, as one of the videos said, you go take a nap. If you need like mental rest, unplug and go in nature. So those are things that we can control.
Yes. And of course, as usual, we run into circumstances that we cannot control. Like, for example, the circumstances and things that we were dealt with, right? Not to confuse certain things, because your own actions can lead you to certain circumstances. That's not what we're talking about here. No. Just to make it clear, because I know a lot of people like to victimize themselves, like, I didn't choose this. This chose me. No. Because if you're asking each of the questions, then you'll see how your own actions will lead you to certain things.
Yes.
And how other external forces are literally conflicting with your life, which is natural because these forces are affecting everybody, right? But there are just certain circumstances that you're dealt with, which are outside of your control, like, tall people, short people. Okay, a short person, you can't make yourself tall. Sorry.
Yeah. Right?
That's just a circumstance you were dealt with. Just to give you an example of certain type of things that you're dealt with. You don't choose the family you were born into.
Yeah.
That's a circumstance you were dealt with. To give you an example of things you just have to deal with.
Yes, exactly. Right? So what's a good journaling question for that?
So we have here, you can ask yourself, is it number 3 here? 4. Okay. So a good question you can ask yourself is, what outcomes are the result of my lack of due diligence, versus the circumstances I was dealt with, to kind of help you decide which part of this here is, and sometimes you'll run into circumstances where there was both at play.
Yeah.
Partially what you did and partially what circumstances you were dealt with. And you kind of have to help navigate, like, okay, that I could have never controlled about this situation.
Yeah.
Okay, the weather gone bad and it canceled the show. I could have never controlled that. You know what I'm saying? But if it's a circumstance where it's just like you were late for the show and you missed it, well, that's totally your fault and you should take accountability for that, right?
Okay, that's the T. And so to go off of that too, things that we certainly can control is basically are the people that you choose to be close to. The people I choose to be close to is definitely something I can control.
Yeah.
So if I like to be surround myself with kind, generous, people who treat others well, and follow that same lifestyle that I do, then I, surround myself with those similar people.
Yeah.
It honestly is so simple in that sense, right? Yeah. Because if you're breaking things down, you say, oh, I don't know why, negative this or that. Like, you have a choice in that. And oftentimes people forget that. Like, this isn't high school, it's not even college. You can choose who you surround yourself by.
Yeah.
And that's why quotes certain like that exist. Like it says, you are the product of who you surround yourself by.
And it's important. Yeah, it's important because people come with their own baggages.
Yeah.
So if you're being affected by those baggages of those other persons, well, maybe you should change
Exactly.
the person you hang with.
No, keep that circle close and take a look at that circle.
And of course, there are things that, people we choose to be around that we can choose to be close to. And that's, on a relationship level and physical proximity as well.
Yeah.
Now, let's be for real. There are some people that we're going to have to work on a close proximity with that we don't choose, that we have to deal with. And that's outside of our control, like our coworkers, especially if you have to work closely together, work on a project together. Now, there has to be some sort of cooperation, okay? This is outside of your control, and it's okay. There are ways to deal with things that are outside of your control, okay? You just basically deal with the part that you can do, and anything else out externally, maybe you need some help dealing with them, like go to your boss or some crap, you know what I'm saying? But just to give you an example, people you were born into a family with, like I said, those you didn't choose. You were just born, and now you have a sister and an uncle, who's like crazy. You don't really like them, but they come by around the house, because that's your mom's brother or sister, whatever the case might be. That's something you did not choose.
Yeah.
That's outside of your control.
Yeah, exactly. And so a good question would be, who are the people I actively choose to be close to, as opposed to those who are present in my living, working, or family environments? Yeah, and that helps you break it down very simply, because then okay, this is outside of my control, like you were saying, coworkers, work, whatever, church, whatever.
Yes.
But even then too, we can choose when to associate ourselves with them, or even put them on a schedule. Like, I don't deal with this person every single day. I deal with them on such and so basis.
Yes, but that helps you at least pinpoint who are the people you can easily rotate in and out.
Yeah.
Like, this person, I have to deal with them, their family. But you, on the other hand, who only takes from me, be rid of yourself.
Yeah.
Just like that. Snap your fingers and they're gone. Okay? Don't add more problems to ourselves than we need.
Nope. So, things within your control, right? The boundaries you choose to set. And the funny thing about boundaries is that, like, it only is, it's when you're talking about I again. So that's very important, because a lot of people set boundaries wrong. If you're wanting to control other people, control how they act, that's not really setting boundaries. So it's how I choose to show up within that new setting. So boundaries that I set, I can control. Like, after a certain time, I notice people start getting rowdy outside and dangerous, or whatever the case is, right? I choose not to participate in activities after midnight. That's a boundary I can set, and I am in control of that.
And that's a good example. I'm going to go off of that to show that can lead to external forces, things that you cannot control. For example, how people may think or feel about that. I can take it some type of way and be like, like, she doesn't like me. Like, what's wrong with me that she doesn't like to be out past a certain time? Like, what's the problem? We're just hanging out. I thought we were friends. Now, circumstances like that, you cannot control how people react to your boundaries. You cannot control what people think about your boundaries. That's for them to decide, okay? Because you see, now what they're trying to do is set expectations on other people.
Okay.
Kind of like how we were saying earlier.
Yeah.
Which you should not do that on others. Now, a question you can ask yourself in this circumstance is, what are the assumptions people make about me based on the boundaries I set? Because then when you think about it like that, it's like, assuming, like, doesn't mean you know me. Like, whatever. To help you not be affected by that. And, dissect it as to, like, okay, why do they feel this way? Because I set this boundary that I want to set for myself.
Exactly.
That's not my problem how they take it.
No, it's definitely not, okay? And things within my control, things within your control, right? Or your attitudes and intentions, okay? And that is huge, because I feel like that is going to make a big shift within your environment, how your attitude, how you feel about it, right? For example, right, outside of your control, right, is that coworker, right, or family member, or whatever the case is in that environment that we can control, right? your attitude about that, though, you can control. You know what I mean? Like, I understand that out of a certain hours out the week, I have to interact with this least favorite person of mine. But that's okay. I have a good attitude about it. Like, I understand, okay, these are my boundaries. I'm going to show up still being myself, and how I influence, because you are influencing your energetical space. That's my attitude about it, right? Yeah. I can control that. My intention is, I'm going to have a good day no matter what.
Yeah.
Okay? No matter how A, B, and C happens, I'm here for a good time, and I'm going to reflect that energetically.
Yes.
That's my attitude and my intention. That I can control.
Yes. And that portion in which you can control as far as your intentions and your attitude. Now, if we think about it, everything has a ripple effect, right? So now we're talking about the future, for example. Yeah. Now, the future, you cannot control, right? That's an external thing. Like, you don't always know what's going to come out of it, which is why when it comes to a future, and you're trying to control your intentions and attitudes for the upcoming, whatever it may be, because we hope we hope we can kind of guide where we're gonna land. Exactly. But as far as external forces, we're not always going to know what the future holds. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's not be too worried about that, because really we should be living in the present.
Exactly.
So the future you cannot control, guys. We can get as close as we want to our goals and manifestations that I get, but unfortunately, it's gonna unravel how it unravels. You just gotta be ready, honey.
Okay. And as long as you're in your present moment connected, I guarantee you are equipped to handle whatever comes your way.
So, what's a question that we can ask in this situation?
Yeah. So, what future outcomes can reveal my intentions and attitude?
Yes.
So that's a very good question, because then you're playing a good game with yourself. Like,
yeah.
Because then you could also,
it's like playing chess.
Yeah. Exactly.
Let's have positive thoughts about this. That is going to be a great outcome. All right.
Exactly.
Now, that's not saying exactly how the outcome is going to turn out, but we know it's going to be good. And then we can set a good attitude about it. And now that's more likely to happen. You just, you change the chance of certain things happening.
Exactly.
But you cannot change the future entirely.
And that's okay, because that's a fun game to even play with. Because now you are almost dealing yourself a better set of cards.
Yeah.
Not to say, those other circumstances won't happen. Yeah. But you took out some of the unlikely variables,
The ones that controlled by you personally. You took those variables out, you got it under control.
Fun. And the last thing that's in our control is our social media intake, right? Oh my goodness. There's, studies have shown that an amount of day, we're spending like 8 hours on our social media, scrolling through our phone. It's gotten that bad, y'all. And that is something we can control. Yes, no matter how hard you think it is, we certainly can. Because we do know that is also affecting us, especially for those out there who are watching, people's stories, Instagram. You're thinking like, oh, look at their life. I wish I had their life. Or you're comparing your life, and comparison, first off, is a thief of joy. Yeah. And so you're comparing yourself and you're comparing your life, and social media is not even real.
Yeah.
So now you put yourself in this freaking maze, this loop. Well, I tell you what, take your attention back.
Okay.
That's the thing that's timeless that people are not realizing. Your attention span.
Yeah. No, seriously, take that back. And believe it or not, guys, leading to the things that are outside of our control. Because the minute you take that picture, you post it on social media, that is now the past.
Okay.
Okay.
Like
that is now the past.
Okay.
You cannot control or change the past. Okay. And it's important that we filter out what we take in. You know what I mean? Because now it has us in a constant state of mind of wanting to be something, or comparing yourself to something that has already passed. Like, imagine living in the past that much. It's over with, baby.
Move on.
If you don't just put that phone down, you know what I'm saying? Like, be in the present and stop thinking about things you cannot change about the past, because it's too late.
It is.
That's why before we were talking about intentions for the future, attitude for the future, because once it gets too past, once you get to that point, it's over with. You can't do anything about it now. You can just only reflect on it.
Yeah, exactly.
So you might as well not let it take such a hold on you. Yes, I understand learning lessons. There's always an opportunity to learn a lesson. Well, I won't do that again.
That didn't plan out the way I thought.
I thought, yikes, I'll do better next time. It helps you prepare for the next time. But there's nothing we can do about it when it has come to pass. Let it go.
Let it go.
So some questions, you can ask yourself is, are the ideologies of people have about you really? Oh, yeah, okay. Are the ideologies people have about you related to past events? Okay. If people are constantly holding you to your past, like, oh, this is what you used to be, this is what you used to do. That's not your problem.
Okay.
Because I can only control what I'm gonna do next. When I'm in a similar situation, you know what I mean? Like, I can only control that. But to constantly be held onto something that I'm trying to let go of, or even if I were to do the opposite, holding you to something that you're trying to let go of, it's not healthy for either of us. And it's something that's outside of our control. And to be so uptight about that only makes you sick.
Literally. Okay. No, seriously. And so what do you guys think? Is letting things go that's out of your control, is that something that that is hard for you? Because I know it's something that's a skill set, right? Anything is a skill that you have to just practice and learn. Because I could say, back in the day, I'm like, oh my goodness, like, oh, I can't let this go, right? Versus now where I'm just like, well, it's flowing. The water, call me the water, the ocean. It don't matter to me. It's gone.
Yes, and it's important to be this way. Like, I literally know some people who are so anxious, like they have anxiety attacks because they're always worried about what's going to happen next. It's like, a constant game of chess, but it's intense. They made their play, their move, and they're like, oh my gosh, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? Are they going to come? What's going to happen? Like, what's going to happen next? Like, I hate when I can't see what's going to happen. I hate when I can't control things. Like, you really are making yourself sick. I don't think that's the best way to go. You should really be at ease about certain things that you can't control. That's why even in some of like the mafia movies, like the crime movies, even the bosses, like when they know they're about to die, they still come. Because what can you do?
Facts.
They're coming for you.
Okay.
But what can you do now?
No, for real. They be loading up their
cigarette.
Exactly.
Okay.
Loading up their clip, knowing they're gonna die.
All right.
Taking the last glass of fucking whiskey or wine, whatever it is.
Because well, shoot, I can't do nothing about it. You hear them killing your men downstairs, your bodyguards going down.
And you next. But you accept the fate. And that's what we're coming to you guys for. Just accept where you are at presently, okay?
Because just like those mafia people, those crime people, they know that there are certain things they did that got them there too.
Yeah.
So now if it comes to a circumstance where there's a lot of bombarding external forces caused from what they did or other actions too, you gotta, you kind of had an idea that this might happen before you did it. So you might as well sit back and
enjoy the show, right?
The show.
And so I hope you guys enjoyed what we brought here to y'all, okay? Because it is gonna be, honestly, when we focus on what we can control, it may not seem like it, right? Because out of our control, 90% or something within our control is like maybe 1 or 2%. But I swear that 1 or 2% is gonna make a huge difference.
Yeah.
That is gonna make it look like you have
you run your life.
Yeah,
like,
in total control.
Everything happened as you wanted it. It just makes your world a better place to live in.
Yeah, and it attracts better opportunities to you. And, because now the environment, the universe is seeing what you can control or what you can handle,
Exactly.
What you can, right?
So it's going to send you different circumstances and different cards to deal with, Treat life like it's a chess game. And just know that sometimes, the king's going down. But that's just fate, isn't it?
Okay, if it's to save the queen. So go ahead, like and subscribe if you have not already. We definitely appreciate you all, okay? And guess what? Y'all? We'll see y'all next week.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.